Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of We On That As News. We got a very interesting story for you guys today. I want to update you guys on something that kind of like sailed under the news radar. It was covered, but it was widely covered in its municipality. It didn't make national news. And this one's very sad because this one is a female runaway, 14 years old, who's known to run away from home. Unfortunately, she met the wrong one, ladies and gentlemen, and that resulted in her losing her life. But the circumstances very strange and very sad. It appears that the reason why her life was taken away from her was because the individual, the adult male that she met, was upset that she may have given him an STD, which he passed to his wife. We'll go ahead and play that for you guys so we could get up to speed, but the outcome is justice, and I do appreciate how this young lady was able to get the justice that she deserved in the end, even though she's no longer with us. Let's keep going.
First at 5, the trial of a man accused of killing a 14-year-old girl got off to an explosive start as prosecutors revealed the motive. Nilexia Alexander was killed 3 years ago, and prosecutors have charged Ronnie Walker with capital murder. But the defense says he is not the man they should be looking at. Fox 13's Evan Axelbank is live at the Hillsborough County Courthouse to unpack opening statements today. Evan, what they have to say?
Well, prosecutors say that Walker was mad that his relationship with Nilexia had been exposed. The defense says that police bullied an accomplice into lying about who pulled the trigger.
Nilexia Alexander.
Maybe the only central fact not in dispute in this courtroom is that Nilexia Alexander was too young for any of this.
14-year-old Nilexia Alexander had run away from home. It wasn't her first time running away from home. She'd been struggling.
Her mother had to listen to and see some of the gory details from the early morning of May 6th of 2022, when her daughter Nilexia was found shot 6 times, at least once in the head. Prosecutors believe Walker was mad he had contracted something from her in their relationship and that he'd given it to his actual girlfriend.
That gun was within 12 inches of her face. Intentional, premeditated.
Prosecutors say they'll be calling a witness who will testify that Walker admitted to shooting her after blaming someone else, that he lied to investigators, and that he tried to clean the blood from his car. In their opening statement, defense attorneys are pouncing on the credibility of those witnesses.
He had been in jail, bonded out, committed more crimes, bonded out, and he was about to have his bond revoked. He was about to be in a situation where he would have to go back to jail.
Defense attorneys say it was the other person in the car that night, Robert Creed, who killed Nilexia, insisting that only Creed had been communicating with her in the days before the shooting. Right. They also insist the DNA evidence of blood is not conclusive and that Creed's critical statements to detectives that Walker shot.
We had 2 of these weird-looking guys who are preying upon this young woman who clearly was a little bit emotionally disturbed, clearly had a lot of instability within her own family. She needed love, she needed guidance, she needed respect, and she got none of those things, resulting in her taken to the streets and getting involved with men like this. If you ask me, all of these people deserve to go to prison, but unfortunately, when you have these murder situations, sometimes you have to make deals with the devil. I have no doubt that this man had something to do. The one with bald head on, what would that be, like the left side of your screen or whatever, where they both have bald heads. Bottom line is, I have no doubt that this man, the accomplice, had something to do with the ending of her life and possibly in the abuse of her. No doubt in my mind. But unfortunately, when you have 3 people involved with a situation, one person is gone, 2 are suspects, you need one of them to flip on the other. And the fact that the person who was mainly involved in a SA relationship with the victim, who had more motive to kill her, well, you go with the other guy who's ratting on him and saying, hey, listen, I'm not the one who did it. The guy who had every reason to do it did it. So it's very sad, but at least we had some measure of justice at the end of this.
Nilexia only came because the detectives badgered him.
If Ronnie Walker just shot and killed her in the car because he was mad at her, just tell me that. And then, and only then, you will hear that Robert Creed, for the first time, changes his story and says, that's exactly what happened. And from there on out, Robert Creed mimics, repeats what the detective had told him.
And this trial is expected to take many days, Haley. They just wrapped up testimony for today. The trial.
Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go and start looking at some segments and some snippets of things that came out of the trial. So I want to go ahead and play for you guys next.
In the capital murder trial of the man charged with killing a teenage girl in Tampa, testimony is now.
This is part of the motive for why it happened, which is basically her ex past, which is what played a huge role in her demise. At least is what the prosecutors think. Let's keep going.
Establishing a motive.
Well, today, prosecutors called on witnesses who say Ronnie Walker admitted to killing 14-year-old Nilexia Alexander because he was angry after their relationship was exposed. Fox 13's Evan Axelbank reports from the Hillsborough County Courthouse with the very latest on today's testimony.
One witness called Ronnie Walker crazy today and said that he not only admitted to the shooting, but also to throwing the gun in the river and cleaning the car. Defense attorneys say that the witness has a long history of crime and making false statements.
If the jury believes what Stanley Wilson testified to, they will likely convict Ronnie Walker.
He told me that he had shot her in the face and in the cheek.
What did you tell him at that time?
Thought he was crazy.
Wilson was a bail bondsman who said Walker at first pinned the shooting on the other person in the car the morning Nilexia Alexander was killed. But he eventually told on himself, Wilson says, saying he was angry at Nilexia over her sexual past.
Did he ever say what happened to the gun?
She's a gorgeous little girl, man. She deserved better than this.
That he threw it in the Hillsborough River.
But will the jury believe him? The defense has already tried to bash another witness who pointed the finger at Walker by saying Robert Creed, the third person in the car, was badgered into his incriminating statements against Walker with promises of a friendlier sentence on his accessory charge. As for Wilson, who admitted on the stand he has a long history of making false statements, they showcased his shifting statements.
You said that Mr. Walker told you Quincy or Q was the one that shot the girl.
Yes.
Okay. And so I suppose, again, that was information that just slipped your mind when I was asking you about it?
Yes, ma'am.
Jurors were given one piece of critical evidence today that is not debatable, and that is that Nilexia Alexander, a 14-year-old girl, was shot in the chest, face, and head 4 times the early morning of May 6th. Prosecutors argued during opening statements that Walker was the only of the two in the car with a plausible reason to be mad at her.
That night, Ronnie Walker had decided he was going to kill Nilexia Alexander. He found her, he got her in the car, and drove away.
The jury also heard that the medical examiner found that Nilexia had gunpowder on her face after the shooting, which indicates that she was shot from under a foot away.
Right. It's very sad stuff. So let's go ahead over to
the trial against Ronnie Walker. He is the man accused of killing 14-year-old Nilexia Alexander and leaving her body in a vacant lot in 2022. As 10 Tampa Bay's Frank Wiley explains, just a few hours ago, the only person who was with the two of them that night testified, and so did Nilexia's mother.
He got mad and went to screaming and yelling, telling him, like, get out of his car, get out my car.
Robert Creed Jr. details what he says happened the night of May 6th.
I heard a gunshot. I looked in the bike seat. I seen her holding like her chest.
He says Walker had been driving around looking for Nilexia that night. When she got in the car, he says Walker asked if she was having sex with others before shooting her. Prosecutors questioning whether the two had been in a relationship.
He's telling me, don't say nothing. Don't tell nobody. Don't tell nobody. Or you're gonna kill me too.
Right now, Creed is facing charges for accessory after the fact. The defense arguing he's the real killer, saying he's just trying to put the blame on Walker.
What motive would this guy have? And don't get me wrong, we've seen people do stupid things before, but what motive would he have to end this girl when he's not the one who's involved in a relationship with her? I mean, let's be serious here. But don't get me wrong, the defense is doing their job. Their job is to raise doubt, right? And you got two shifty, very low moral character individuals in the car. You could point the finger at either one you want. But we really got to look at, like, what is the motive? What motive would this guy have to just blow this little girl away when he's not even involved with her? or at least to the level by which the suspect is involved with her.
Benefits that you've received is after agreeing to testify, the prosecution agreed to erase that bond for you.
They picked apart his testimony, during which he claimed he never met Nilexia before that night, even though phone records show multiple conversations between the two, Creed claiming someone else used his phone.
Is it your testimony that somehow this coincidental friend in common that you have with Nilexia Alexander gets a hold of your phone at almost 3 o'clock in the morning and they're communicating? Is that your explanation?
Yes, ma'am.
Nilexia's mother also taking the stand today.
And, this is also thing like, there's an epidemic of our little girls being preyed upon by older men in America. I mean, we know this happens around the world, but America's supposed to be different, right? We're civilized, right? We don't marry young kids off at 8, 9, 10 years old, things that you see in other parts of the world. We don't do that here, right? And especially in low-income communities, this is normal stuff. When I was growing up in Harlem, in the projects, when I was young, this is normal. We didn't look at the older guys messing with these teenage girls like, oh, these guys are doing something bad. It was so ingrained, like it was normal. It's disgusting. It happens all over this country. And then you get older and you get out of that culture and you're like, oh my God. The whole damn community is filled with pedophiles. All of them, everybody. They're all pedophiles in these places. It's terrible. We really need to have these discussions, ladies and gentlemen. We really need to protect the children. Then we have these young women growing up, acting way beyond their age. We have young women who are now losing their futures, becoming mothers at very young ages, and nobody's saying anything. 15-year-old comes to a hospital to give birth. Nobody's asking, who's the daddy? Or by law, they have to ask who's the daddy. She says, oh, it's another 15-year-old kid. And then that's the end of it. Case closed. Nobody's digging. Nobody's making sure that what she's saying is the truth. Because the truth of the matter is, most of the time, she's 15. The baby daddy's not 15. Baby daddy is 25, 30. And then you have these secrets, these dirty little secrets in the hood. Everybody knows, nobody wants to talk about. We need to start taking this stuff more seriously. We need to protect our children. There's no reason why this young girl, beautiful young girl, should be having all these communications and entanglements with these grown men. Nobody knows until one of them decides to pull the trigger because he's jealous. She's not being faithful and loyal to him. 30-something, 40-year-old man. She's not being faithful and loyal to him, so now she has to be ended. Unbelievable.
That's not Alexia. I was Alexia.
Her mother detailing Nilexia's behavioral issues after learning that she was adopted.
She started running away.
Do you personally know why she was running away?
Looking for her parents.
Her family later learned Nilexia had a secret phone, but did not know who she was contacting. The trial resumes tomorrow.
I get it. Listen, this is complicated, and the mother, what she just said, it touched me, This girl had a lot of emotional issues. She was adopted. When she found out she was adopted, she's running away trying to find her real parents. Sometimes you got to have those real conversations. Like, hey, what are you running away from? I'm the one who loves you. You're here for a reason, and you need therapy, and you need counseling, and you need a whole community to come together, and embrace this child and kind of bring them back to reality. But I get it. Let's keep going.
And we will stream that trial.
All right, so we go ahead and we'll get to...
Well, first here at 5 o'clock, the man Ronnie Walker has known his whole life pointed the finger at him today for the murder of 14-year-old Nilexia Alexander. Prosecutors say that Walker killed Alexander 3 years ago on a dark Tampa street during a fit of revenge. Well, today, his childhood friend took the stand, claiming he witnessed her murder. Alexia's mother also testifying. Fox 13's Evan Axelbeck is there. Live at the courthouse today in Hillsborough County with the latest on this in downtown Tampa. Hi there, Evan. Bring us up to speed here on this.
Yeah, and the witness who testified against Walker today has known him for their entire lives, and he told the jury that Walker began threatening him from jail, and the prosecution has pinned their entire case on the jury believing him.
There was one thing Ashley Alexander wanted the court, the jury, and Ronnie Walker to know.
How did you know her?
I was her mother.
She also told the jury that Nilexia had begun running away from home 3 years before prosecutors say she was shot by Ronnie Walker in May of 2022. She watched surveillance video today of Nilexia getting into Walker's car hours before she was killed, the last time she was seen alive by anyone other than Walker and Robert Creed. When it comes to the facts of what happened the early morning of the shooting, the focus was on Creed, who has pleaded guilty to accessory after the fact for lying to police, at first to protect Walker. But today, he told on his old childhood friend.
Mr. Walker, with his left hand, takes a gun. Let me kind of demonstrate for you. Turns around and shoots Nilexia Alexander while she is sitting in the back seat of the car. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
The defense is trying to paint Creed as an opportunistic liar, pointing out he is hoping for favorable treatment in his own upcoming sentencing, and that he at first lied. Creed's final testimony to the jury, though, is that he heard Walker shoot Nilexia several times, and that Walker threatened him after the shooting.
Telling me, don't say nothing, don't tell nobody, or you're gonna kill me too.
Wow. All right, so let's go ahead to the article and get to the outcome of this case. I want to make sure that you guys understand that justice was served in this. The same jury that found Ronnie Tremble Walker guilty of murdering 14-year-old Nilexia Alexander decided Friday that he should spend the rest of his life in prison. After a 2-day penalty hearing, the panel of 5 men and 7 women discussed the case for a little less than 2 hours before rejecting a death sentence. Now, this case is very similar to the Madeline Soto case and the Stephen Stearns case. And yet, this jury decided against giving this man capital punishment, right? And I want to just bring that to you guys, that very similar, a lot of similarities in this case, not too similar, but it's similar enough. And yet, he did not get capital punishment. So that just tells you that capital punishment is not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed, ladies and gentlemen. So let's keep going. This is both in Florida. So we got similar jury pool, okay? After a 2-day penalty hearing, they decided not to give him the death penalty. Hillsborough Circuit Judge Robin Fussin immediately imposed a life sentence, the only other option. Walker showed no immediate reaction upon hearing the jury's decision, but moments later, as he sat at a defense table, he removed his glasses and gazed at the jury. As sheriff's deputies placed him in handcuffs, Walker turned toward Ashley Alexander, Nilexia's mother, who wept in the courtroom gallery, and he said, "I didn't kill your daughter, ma'am." Walker said, "I didn't kill your baby. You should have gotten deaf," Alexander shouted. Veronica Denson, the daughter of Elaine Caldwell, whom Walker was previously convicted of killing, shouted back at him, "You're a natural-born killer," Denson said. So Veronica Denson, the daughter of Elaine Caldwell, whom Walker was previously convicted of killing. This is interesting here, because this is kind of telling me that this guy was previously convicted of killing somebody else. I gotta look this up. You know, too often we are giving these guys second chances. Okay. So in 2010, he was found guilty of manslaughter for shooting Elaine Lanier Caldwell in the head during a home invasion robbery. Wow. So this wasn't the first time that this guy did something like this. So in 2010, he killed another person during a home invasion robbery. And yet we did not give him the maximum penalty that he deserved. And he's out now and about to hurt somebody else. This is what happens when we give these monsters second chances. We keep doing it in our society. We never learn our lesson. Let's keep going. You're a natural born killer, Denson said. You've been killing for a long time. You just got caught this time. Sheriff's deputies ushered both women out of the courtroom. In closing arguments Friday afternoon, Walker's defense urged the jury to choose mercy, emphasizing that the guilty verdict this week ensures that he will face retribution. Keep in mind, Mr. Walker is severely punished for what he did to Miss Alexander with life in prison without parole. Assistant Public Defender Callan Schmeller said he will never walk free again. The jury's decision capped a 2-day penalty hearing, which prosecutors focused heavily on Walker's prior conviction for another homicide, a 2003 home invasion robbery, which the victim, Caldwell, was shot in the head. Walker ultimately pleaded guilty to a manslaughter charge for that crime and spent several years in prison. He'd been free about 6 months when Nilexia was killed. So within 6 months, he met Nilexia, he abused her, he took advantage of her, and then he took her life. Why? Because she was not being faithful to him. And because he assumes that she is the one that gave him some type of venereal disease, when in fact, he could have been the one that gave it to her, for all we know. Because we know that this guy's probably not the bastion of virtue that he'd like to present himself to be. He was probably out there doing all kinds of risky things, and now he's blaming this young lady for the mistakes that he made. But let's keep going. She was a troubled teen who'd run away from home, and she wandered one early morning through the Belmont Heights neighborhood. Surveillance cameras recorded footage of a black Ford Fusion as it cruised Tampa's darkened streets as Nilexia sat in the back seat. Minutes after she got in the car, it turned down a dead-end stretch of Florida Basker Avenue, made a U-turn, then stopped. Robert Creed, a passenger in the car who later pleaded guilty to being an accessory after the fact, testified that Walker began to argue with the girl there. The dispute had something to do with sex. Creed said Walker pulled a gun and shot Nilexia once in the car, then again multiple times after she got out. Walker's past conviction for the violent felony was one of the aggravating factors prosecutors cited to justify capital punishment. They also argued Nalexia's murder was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner. In the state's closing arguments, Assistant State Attorney Chinwe Fawcett reiterated much of the evidence that the jury used to find Walker guilty, asserting that it showed he planned and thought about the killing before it happened. There was a drive to a darkened area, carrying of a loaded weapon, the confrontation, the multiple gunshots, all of it, the prosecutor argued, suggested premeditation. On May 6th of 2022, the defendant, Ronnie Walker, made up his mind that it was the day he was going to kill Nilexia Alexander, Foster said. Defense, though, countered that there was no evidence of heightened premeditation that could support a death sentence. At the same time, they argued that Walker's life circumstances and personal character weighed against death. So his life choices should be used to not give him death, because we should feel sorry for him that he chose violence. He chose drugs, if that's the case. He chose not getting education, if that's the case. He chose to break into people's homes and try and steal their things and ended up killing somebody. He chose to do these things, so we should have mercy on him and not give him the death penalty. Amazing, amazing, amazing. The world and the culture and the society that we live in, that could even be something that could be allowed to be argued in court. Let's keep going. His mother, Emma Hamilton, and of course his mother, all the pain that he's bringing to society. Of course, well, that's his mother. That's what some of you guys are going to say. Well, that's his mother. You know, that's her son. You know, she should have the right. Of course, we should expect her to come and speak up for us. And all the pain that this man has brought to our society and our world. And the mother will still come up and talk for her son. Let's see what the mommy has to say. His mother, Emma Hamilton, detailed her son's chaotic early life. How much of that was your fault, Mom? I'm just curious. I'm not saying it is. I'm just curious. He was afflicted with pneumonia and bronchitis shortly after his birth. Okay, he had a respiratory illness when he was a baby, so that means he should be a murderer. He suffered seizures as a child and was prescribed medication. He once rolled out of a 2-story window and injured his head. Yup, so TBI, like what they're going to try and say in the Stephen Stearns case. He stammers sometimes when he speaks. Oh, my gosh. Talk about reaching for straws. But it worked because they didn't give him capital punishment. They gave him life in prison. He never knew his father. Whose fault is that? Okay. He grew up largely in public low-income housing. Whose fault is that? I don't know. Let's keep going. He was one of 6 siblings. Whose fault is that? No dads, public housing, low-income poverty, and you still making babies. You made 6 of them, from whom his mother struggled to provide, but you still made 1, Then you made the 2, still struggling. Life is still tough. You made the 3rd one, still struggling. Life is still tough. Could barely put food on the table. Can't even pay for your own rent. Taxpayers paying for your rent. Still made the 4th one. Same deal for the 5th one and the 6th one. Okay, we'll stop at 6. No dad in sight. No real income to support these children. Living in public housing. Living in perpetual poverty. Your son grows up to be a multiple time convicted murderer. Let's keep going. His school records indicate he didn't advance past the 6th grade, ladies and gentlemen. At age 9, he was deemed emotionally disturbed. 2 years later, records labeled him profoundly mentally handicapped. When Walker was 10, his mother missed a medical appointment. State social workers got involved and split up the children. Thank you. They probably saved those kids' lives. There's probably a few of them in that litter who actually made it out and became something because they weren't in the company of that mother. But let's keep going. He and 2 brothers went to live with an aunt while his sister went elsewhere. He became accustomed to life in some of East Tampa's toughest neighborhoods where he was exposed to drug dealing. He did poorly in school and never graduated. Do you still love your son? Hamilton asked. Yes, she said. The jury heard much of the same from one of Walker's sisters, his niece, a cousin, and his son's mother. Walker has 3 children. He carried pictures of them. A year before he was accused of murdering Nilexia, his oldest son was killed in a shooting. You guys see what we're talking about in the last few shows about that perpetual trauma, that DNA, that trauma in the DNA? You see how that works? Unless you fight yourself out of these things, it's bound to be repeated. You see how that trauma works, ladies and gentlemen? His son was killed to gun violence. He visits his grave daily. And yet, after your son dying to gun violence, it never stopped you from deciding to take somebody else's life with gun violence. Let's keep going, man. The jury appeared to heed the words of the defense. If you simply see even a small spark of humanity in Mr. Walker, I don't. Schmelmer told the jury, even if no one else sees it, you can give it the weight of life. Man, listen. Don't ever put me on one of these juries because I'm voting for capital punishment. Guys, it's a very sad story, but I'm so happy that justice was served in the end, that this man is now spending the rest of his life in prison. It's very sad, but we definitely have to do a better job in protecting our children and stop making excuses for the bad choices of these adults. You'll find no mercy, no quarter, no sympathy, no empathy from me. Yes, you may have had a bad life. We all have our struggles. Nobody's perfect. I grew up in poverty myself. I have my own struggles, but there's no excuse to victimize children. There's no excuse to take somebody's life. When you make these choices, you have to face the consequences of your actions when you are caught and you're facing the music of justice. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining and supporting the channel. I'll see you guys on the next one. Strategic is out of here. Peace on another edition on that We On That Ass News, brought to you by World Wild Pedophiles. Peace.